Welcome back. In this video, we're going to begin to show you how to build and implement interfaces. Now, interfaces, unlike an abstract class situation, interfaces are used when our classes may be wildly divergent. They may be nothing like each other, okay? But they still have to have some common functionality. So if we're going to implement an interface, we do the same thing we did in abstract class, where we're going to add the body, if you will, to an override of the abstract methods that are in the interface. The difference is, unlike an abstract class, an interface, one, it's called an interface, and two, there's nothing else. It's just the abstract methods. Now, in earlier forms of Java, all you had was the signature line of the methods followed by a semicolon. In the newest forms of Java, and this is kind of outside the scope if you're in an AP version of this course, like AP-CSA, but I want you to know it because it's very real world. You can put default behaviors. So your interface methods can now have a default body to them, okay? But that's relatively new in Java. So what we're going to do for the scope of this course is just use abstract methods with the signature line followed by a semicolon, okay? Take a look and you'll see what I'm talking about as far as building a basic interface. Okay, in this video, we're going to talk about another way that abstract methods are used. We saw them in the abstract class, where they're abstract methods in an abstract class, where I have to be a descendant of that abstract class that implements those methods to become concrete. There are situations where you're going to have widely divergent classes, but you want them to incorporate some common functionality. A good example of those methods, or a place we see that in Java itself, is in the list interface. Array lists and other collections implement the list interface, and the list interface has a lot of rules for how to add, subtract, sort, and do different things that all of these collections do, but they do it slightly differently. Okay? You're going to see interfaces when you deal with things like databases, where how I connect to one type of database is different than another. So I'm going to use an interface to have common functionality in how I do that or how I implement that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a very simple interface. And one of the ways you can do that is by, on this little class symbol, if you hit the drop down, you can say, instead of giving me a class, give me an interface, and it will create a blank interface when you put the title in, which is what I did here. And I named this interface Sales Reporting. Now, really the only thing, especially for this class, that we're going to put into interfaces is abstract methods. Okay? So I'm going to put two in, and again, an abstract method is the signature line with a semicolon. I'm not going to implement the abstract method. Now, in newer versions of Java, and this goes outside the College Board's version of what you need to know if you happen to be in AP-CSA, but you can now in Java have default implementations, but we're not going to go into that. That's kind of beyond the scope of this. So we're going to put two in. We're going to say it's public. It's going to be abstract. And the first one we're going to do is a void. So it's a procedure. Print sales report title. This is going to print the title of a sales report. Okay? And it's going to accept a string, cannot type today, string, which is called title. So you're going to feed it the title you want it to print, and it's going to print it. And then, because I like to do a procedure and a function, we can do a public abstract double, and this was going to be called calculate sales tax, and it's going to accept a double, which is total sales. Let's spell double right. And it's going to take another double called tax rate. Okay? And we're just going to say that this is some common functionality that I want to couple widely different classes to have. Now, if I create a class that is going to use this, because this itself is not an abstract class, it's an interface. I don't extend an interface. I implement an interface. So I can only have one parent. So I can extend a given class as my parent. But I can implement as many interfaces as I want. But I haven't implemented the interface sufficiently until I have implemented all of its abstract methods. Okay? So in the next video, we're going to build a couple classes that implement the sales reporting interface. Because what you see is the interface. That's all there is to it. A list of methods that we're defining the headers, and if you implement them this way, you will successfully implement the sales reporting interface. So now you've seen what it is to build an interface, and it's really not that hard. So in the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to build two classes that actually use the @override and give bodies to those two abstract methods. And what you're going to see is we can do it completely different. We'll do it kind of similar, but they're going to be different implementations for different classes, but they will both implement those. Therefore, they have each implemented that interface.